Good morning. We would like to welcome Erik Perel from the Advertising and Graphic Design Department here at Alamance Community College. Erik, thank you for meeting with us and speaking for our WIOA Weekly for the Academic and Career Readiness Program.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So I want to take a little bit of time to kind of tell you about what advertising and graphic design is. Before I get into the meat of my presentation, I want to jump over and kind of start from the beginning. So all designers start from a blank slate. I mean, basically to design something means to build. You can think of what architects do, they build houses. And if you work along that idea, they start from the ground up. They start with nothing, they plan things out. They think about what they want to do and where things are going to go. And they put together the materials, and a building, a house, arises. And all of that requires planning and forethought, or else the end result doesn't look good, it doesn't work, it falls down, it's dangerous. Graphic designers do the same thing, except we are designing with graphics. So think text, think pictures, think logos and things like that. So all designers start here. They start with a blank slate. And what we're trying to do is we are trying to come up with something that is meaningful. So if I put together some simple things, like I'm going to just kind of work with some circles here, and put something together to kind of demonstrate, what I'm talking about, and kind of show you what graphic design basically is. I mean, we work on many different levels, and we do many different things. So there are things as simple as making logos, which is kind of what I'm doing here. And when I get through, you might recognize what this logo is, what this logo represents. So I'll put that together there. And then I will click on that, and do that. And then we have the Beats logo. So something really simple and straightforward, using a tool like Adobe Illustrator to create something out of nothing. And this is the logo for a multi-billion-dollar organization. And it's made with something as simple as using Adobe Illustrator. And that's something that a graphic designer does. Something else that we can do is, if you like art, most of the people that come to our program, most of the students that come to our program are interested in art. They have an art background. Art is kind of their passion. And so this is something one of our students created. This is, you might recognize if you're into music, The Weeknd. So what one of our students did is they took this photo of The Weeknd and they made an illustration, their own illustration. And you can kind of see, once I start taking this away, here's the original picture. They made it black and white. And gradually, if I take that away, you can kind of see the end result. This is something that was done digitally. It's digital art. They created this. And that's something that our students learn to do in our program. So getting to kind of the meat of the presentation, again, this is advertising and graphic design. And what we're teaching you to do is to put things together in a meaningful way. So you don't just take a bunch of words and take a bunch of pictures and take a bunch of logos and slap them together and ta-da, you have design. Things have to go together in a meaningful way. So starting at the root of things, how do we put together type on a page in a way that shows kind of meaningful design? And that's what this, this exercise here shows. And then, adding on, how do we work with color and with shapes to create kind of a harmonious type of design that people like to look at. So one thing that you might not think about is, when you're designing things, certain colors go together in certain ways. And colors can clash. If you look at, you've probably seen, an ad or a website before, and you might not really have known why, but it just felt off, it felt wrong. And that's because it was designed poorly The colors clashed, the elements weren't in the right places. They had poor graphic design. So what we're teaching is how to put these things together in meaningful ways. Something like this is a student project that involved creating a poster for a fictional band concert. And you've probably seen these playbills around when you walk around like a downtown somewhere or a club, you see them plastered up all over the place. And the idea is you want to communicate with people what it is you're trying to tell them, right? We have a concert. I want to tell you when the concert is. I want to tell you who the concert's for. I want to tell you where you can buy tickets and all of that. So part of design, or part of being a graphic designer, is not just creating the elements and making something pretty, but communicating the idea in a simple, easy to understand way. Because if you have, it doesn't matter how pretty something is, if you have a jumble of stuff on a page that's hard to read or hard to understand, no one's going to look at it, or no one's going to be able to figure out what you're talking about. So something as simple as a band poster that is put together and shows, you know, where a concert is going to be is something that a good designer should be able to do. Magazine layouts, okay? Knowing how to put together things coherently on a page. One kind of misconception that people have about graphic design is a lot of times they think that it's simply working with creating art. A lot of people come in and they think, oh, I'll be able to draw, I'll be able to do digital drawings, I'll make logos, and I'll make art, and that'll be my job. And really, being a graphic designer is, I like to say, you almost have to be like a platypus, a little bit of everything. You have to know how to make a logo, and you have to know how to put it on a website, and you have to know how to lay type on a page, and you have to put all of that stuff together. So a good graphic designer has all of those skills kind of combined. And in a two-year program like ours, that's what we're really focused on. We're focused on combining all of that stuff together and giving you a good foundation in graphic design. You know, so we've all been to the, you know, supermarket, and we've seen magazines put together, you know, whether it's People Magazine or Time or Sports Illustrated. And all of that, again, is done by a graphic designer. You know, everything, a lot of things, you know, that you look at around you, you know, television shows with the credits, magazines, billboards, those things are put together by graphic designers. So, you know, something like this, as simple as a magazine, the visual flow of something like that really matters, like I was talking about. And so it's important to be able to do something like that in a coherent way. The restaurant, we've all been to restaurants before. You've probably been to a restaurant where you look at the menu and everything is so jumbled up, it just gives you a headache. You can't decide what it is you want to eat. You really can't even find anything that makes sense. Something as simple as putting together a coherent menu is something a good graphic designer should be able to do. Our program has many facets to it. So part of our program involves photography. We have photography and videography. We have web design. Again, we have logo design and page design, but we do have some certificates in our program, as well as just the two-year programs. We have a two-year, you know, full AAS, Associates of Applied Science degree in graphic design. And then we have a couple of certificates. One is a visual arts certificate, where you take 2 classes of photography and 2 classes of videography. And that's good for people that are interested in being kind of visual communicators more than full designers. And we also have a multimedia design certificate. And with that certificate, you take our 3 computer graphics classes. So in those classes, you learn how to use Adobe Illustrator, which is, you know, making logos and vector art and things like that. You use Adobe Photoshop, which you use to, everyone kind of knows what Photoshop is, but you manipulate photos and you can do complicated graphics and things like that as well. And Adobe InDesign, which is page design. In that certificate as well, you take our 2 videography classes, and then you take our 2 web design classes as well. So it's a really full-featured certificate. It's 18 hours. And it covers a lot of things that, someone that might not have time for the full, 2-year graphic design degree can take that and get a, a really full featured kind of background in graphic design. So, photography, again, is important. Again, you might not think that's something that goes along with design, but really it's about being a visual communicator. It's about composing things in an interesting way and telling a story, which is, what we do with design, putting elements together in an interesting, meaningful way to tell a story. And that's what we teach, and that's what we do with in our photography program. So something like this is a project. It's a midterm project in our photography 2 class. And the idea is to come up with a product advertisement. So the students have to take a photo, but what they have to do is they have to pick a project or pick a product and come up with an entire ad campaign. And that goes to the heart of what you do as a designer. You have to think about, okay, I have a product, in this case, Dunkin' Donuts. What am I going to say about this? How am I going to entice people to want to buy this? How am I going to illuminate people about my product? And this student came up with a really interesting idea to do this. I mean, think about the old cliche about police loving donuts. And so Dunkin' Donuts at the time had a campaign about on-the-go ordering. So think about, there's a policeman holding a donut and coffee, and he's so enthralled with it, he doesn't notice the criminals behind him sneaking off with the rest of the donuts, and they're on the go. I mean, that's really creative advertising. And a lot of times, if you think about the memorable ads that you've seen in your life, sometimes they're not even really so much about the product, they're about making you have an emotion or a feeling about them, so that when you go to buy something, you remember it. Oh, donuts, oh, that Dunkin' Donuts, they had that crazy ad with the cop and the criminal sneaking off. And so you think about choosing Dunkin' Donuts because that's stuck in your mind. Good designers are able to do stuff like that. And those are the types of skills that we teach you in our program. This is a project that involved, it was really kind of simple and straightforward, but it involved words and the feeling that is created with different types of words. So you think about dreary or narrow or evolve or drip, those types of things that have a synesthesia or a feeling that they create in you. And so, to challenge students to come up with something creative, how do you represent that? How do you take something as simple as text and represent a feeling with just black and white graphics? And that's the challenge that we present to our students. This is an interesting kind of collaboration type of thing where you put together a bunch of different elements in Photoshop. And this is a cool little project that students did with animation. So this is done in Photoshop, and they had to put together a bunch of different individual layers, individual pictures, and animate it. So one student came up with something like this, and then another student came up with this cool idea of the alien cow abduction. And this is all completely student designed. So you can kind of see the variety of things that are covered. Again, this is an album design where students had to come up with 3, like a name of an album, a name of a band, and come up with 3 different representations of what that would look like using different musical genres. This is part of a student's end of program portfolio. So when they're going out in the world, One of the last classes they take is portfolio, where they put together a magazine that shows all their skills and things that they've learned. So not only are they showing stuff off, they're showing how they know how to design as well. And this is a project that the student had to do, where they had to, again, they were presented with the idea of, okay, here's a new magazine that we want to make, and we need you to come up with a logo. And the student came up with a logo for what it was going to look like, and then they showed different layouts of what it would look like in a magazine. Part of our program, or most of our program actually, is very client-based. And what I mean by that is we don't just give you projects. The projects are real world. You're working for actual clients. Not every project, but most of the projects, you have a real client that you're working for. They come in, they propose something, and you have to put it together and present and come up with ideas about why it is, or why it is that you are presenting what you're doing, what your design choices were. Part of being a designer is not just putting things together, but being able to communicate. So that's something that we work on quite a bit through the program, is presentation. How do you talk to a client about what your design choices were? Why did you decide to do something the way that you did? Why did you use yellow and black? Why did you create these lines the way that you did? It's not enough to just make something and say, ta-da, here it is. You have to be able to defend your choices. So presentation and presentation skills are very important to our program, and that's something that we work on quite a bit with students. Here's another kind of end of program layout that a student put together that shows the different things that she worked on for different clients. So we have over here North Stream Bottling Company and La Parmigiano Italian Bistro. She put together a design for the advertising graphic design department and various other things. Again, another end of program project that shows, different types of things. And I included different ones because you can see the different styles that students have. We don't try to mold your style. We try to refine your style. We try to help you find what your style is. And your style will change after you leave our program. But really what we're trying to do is we're trying to mold you into a good designer and a good communicator. We don't want a bunch of people that are all cookie cutter and all the same, because the world doesn't want that, or the world wants different ideas, different design. But it's our job to take your ideas and enhance them and make you be able to grow and communicate them better. And I'm going to end kind of here. One of the things that we did, not this school year, but last year, is we had a college to career festival at ACC in February of 2020. And as part of that, the ice cream shop Smitty's, that has stores kind of all around Alamance County, wanted to, they put together a new flavor of ice cream just for ACC, just for this festival. So they came to us, the graphic design department, and they said, okay, we have this new thing. We need a presentation for it. We need a design, a logo. We need posters. We need to present this. We need a name. We don't even have a name for this. It's just a new flavor. They told us what it was, and the students got to work. Our students in 3 days had all of these types of presentations like this. And you can see the various different ideas that students had. Some of them, maybe ill-advised, kind of like an otter head coming out of an ice cream cone, right? That might not be the most appetizing. But the idea is that you're generating ideas and you're coming up with different things. So you can see the process where they're writing down different things. Let's think of some ideas of names: River Rock Cream, River Mud, Otter Rocks, Otter Kiss. And all this otter stuff comes from that the ACC mascot is Haw the River Otter, because we're on the Haw River. So all of this was put together. The students, gave their presentations, and then the client gave their feedback. And in the end, what we ended up coming up with was this, after the feedback, Hawes Rocky River, okay? And it's Otter This World. So there we go. We have the otter with a little ice cream hat and the Smitty's logo on it. And down here we have a style sheet that shows how this should be used, what it should be involved, the colors involved, the font, all of that, so that it can be designed. Here's the poster that was put together, and all of that stuff came together. That is the design process. Okay, that's what we teach you to do, to start with an idea and come up with, a whole campaign, a branding campaign for what that idea can be, right? Start from nothing, like an architect, and build something new. Okay, so if you'd like more information about the program, my name is Erik Perel again. I'm the department head for advertising and graphic design. And here's my phone number and email address. Did you have any questions for me?
Thank you so much, Erik. I really do appreciate you taking the time to present today. One quick question. Thank you for covering both the certificates and the degree, the associate's degree that students can get. As far as once they complete either of those, what have you found that students do most often? Go straight into employment, or do you see them going on to further their education?
Sure. I'd say that most of our students, greater than 90% probably, go straight into the workforce. We have students working kind of all over the area. There's OT Sports, which designs sports jerseys. We have designers there. We have designers at the Tishy Train Company, North Star Marketing, and Morissette, which is a box company which designs kind of packaging. So a lot of our students will test the waters and go out and freelance. Many of our students go and get jobs at design firms in the area, some of them like print shops and things like that. We do have an articulation agreement with NCA&T. And what I mean by that is, since we're a technical program, we're not in the university transfer track. Most four-year colleges will not necessarily give credit for and recognize our courses. And some will, they'll recognize some of them, but not all of them. So it's a little bit harder to go into our program and then just transfer to any college. Now, I will say that you are going to get more graphic design skills in our program than you will in most four-year programs, because going to a four-year program, the graphic design department is typically in one of two places: the art department or the journalism/communications department. And in those departments, graphic design is just basically a subset, meaning you're getting an art degree with a graphic design subsequence, and you might take 3 classes of graphic design, but it's really a Bachelor of Arts. All that said, if you do want to go on to a four-year college, we do have an articulation agreement with NCA&T. We just updated that. North Carolina Agricultural and Technical, I believe, and they're in Greensboro. And what an articulation agreement means is that they have said that they will honor, that they will give credit for the majority, a good amount of our classes. So like 46 to 60 credits, meaning that you could transfer in after you finish up in our program and then finish up in 2 years with a Bachelor of Arts from NCA&T. I think it's a Bachelor of Arts. It could be a Bachelor of Science, but I'm pretty sure it's a Bachelor of Arts in their communication and graphics department. So that is something that is available for students. We are working on trying to establish more articulation agreements to give more kind of variety. So I'm talking with right now Lees McRae, which is a private college in Banner Elk, North Carolina. And I'm working with NC Central, and I'm having a longer term discussion with Appalachian State. They are currently in the process of working on kind of changing their curriculum, but I'm hopeful that eventually we'll establish something with them as well.
All right. Well, I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And
Absolutely.
all right. Thank you.
Thanks.